joining you live from our Delhi studios. And tonight, we put the focus on SEBI relief coming in for the Adani Group, while the markets regulator at the SEBI, or the Securities and Exchange Board of India, has dismissed allegations of related party dealings leveled by US short seller Hindenburg Research against Adani Group chairman Gautam Adani and the group's companies. And that includes Adani Enterprises, Adani Ports and Adani Powers and Nivedna. So this is a big relief coming in for the group.
Absolutely. In fact, just to draw perspective as to what really panned out in this case, Sumita, for our viewers to better understand, remember in January 2021, Hindenburg Research had alleged the group had used three companies, that is Adani Enterprises, Milestone Trade Links and Reva Infrastructure, to route money between Adani Group firms. Now, laying out its conclusions in two orders, SEBI said there were no violations, noting that the transactions took place at a time when such dealings with unrelated parties did not qualify as related party dealings. In fact, to decode that further with us, Sumita, we have special guest joining us tonight.
Absolutely. Joining us on this special broadcast is Suhel Seth. He's a managing partner, Counsel at India, and Gupta, MD, Stakeholders and Empowerment Services. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for taking the time out and speaking to us here on 80. Now, let me come to you first, Mr. Gupta. Now, SEBI's order essentially pertains to two key allegations that were made against the group, and those could not be established. Does this amount to a clear exoneration coming in for the Adani Group, and how will it be viewed by investors when the markets open tomorrow?
Good evening, and thank you for having me. See, the first thing is very clear that as far as I am concerned, right from beginning, I had said that there is nothing in the Hindenburg report. It is a concoction of half-truths in a non-chronological order to do something. Then what happened, we had come out with a report and we analyzed everything except insider trading thing, because that for which you need a data. We had no data, so we said we did not find anything in the Hindenburg report with something. Now, after this time, after all possible investigation, SEBI has also come to the conclusion that even there is no truth on the insider trading regulation or whatever it may be. The other point is very clear. What had happened, they had put half-truths in the report to make it's a mole out of mountain out of the molehill, when they said XYZ was arrested to create some sort of a negative news. But they did not write that after 1 year or half a year or whatever be, the highest court of the country had exonerated that person. When you write the two facts together, it doesn't make any impact. In order to create impact, they wrote on half-truth, and that too in a non-chronological order. The second point, which I have already said, unfortunately in our country, the negative news is like a honey and honey bee. We stick to that like that. So everybody who was not in favor of Adani or in favor of the government or whatever it may be, or who may have been the loser, latched on to that report as if it is a gospel truth written in the Gita or Mahabharata or wherever it may be. What has happened out of that? Investors are of different type. Everybody does not have the staying power. So those investors who were weak, they sold the shares in panic. Now when the shares have gone up again, they are the real losers of the whole episode. The other problem that came, the panic was partly created by investors not able to stay, but by other players in the system, where people started saying LIC डूब जाएगा, State Bank डूब जाएगा. As a result, they created further panic. And that is bane of our society, where we, in order to settle my score with you or someone else, I don't bother about whom I am hurting. I may be hurting my own constituents, but since I have to hurt you, I will speak whatever I have to speak. So this is my initial comment on this.
Mr. Gupta. In fact, I want to come back to as far as those points that you've made. But essentially, what you've gone on to state is that the allegations were a concoction of half-truths. Mr. Seth, thank you also very much for joining us in the broadcast, and more importantly, patiently waiting till we had the opportunity to come to you. Let me understand from your viewpoint, given the allegation that was made by Hindenburg, where they accused Adani of engaging not just in brazen stock manipulation and accounting fraud, but also went on to call it the largest con in corporate history. But with that clean sheet now, does this expose the perils of believing global short sellers?
It exposes the perils of believing people with agendas and how we are so quick to judge people without any substantive facts. You know, what Mr. Gupta said is true. How will you recompense the ordinary shareholder who got screwed in the process because you had an irresponsible short seller like Hindenburg, who was given full play in the Indian media thanks to some leftist liberal agenda? And you see, here's the point. The hatred for Narendra Modi and the BJP has now morphed into the hatred for everything that is good about this country. And that is how this agenda came to be. Tell me, SEBI is known for its rigor. Earlier, you may have made allegations against the lady who was running it then. Now you can't say that this particular chairman is also, aligned to Adani or Modi. So my point here is that a public apology is not enough. If I were Gautam Adani, I would sue Hindenburg silly, that's if it still exists. I would sue all those organizations that have created this vindictive narrative. And I would tell people that this is how the India story is constantly negated by people with a pernicious, self-driven, motivated, manipulative agenda. And I'm glad that you guys in ET Now are doing this program, because it's important for ordinary shareholders to know that the next time they hear this kind of nonsense, they need to wait until the investigation is complete and until an authority like the regulator that SEBI is actually passes judgment. Because you and I aren't the experts. G.N. Gupta may be an expert. I'm certainly not an expert on the stock market. But I would, in my innocence, believe whatever I've been told, because this is how the world works. And, William Shakespeare said it in Julius Caesar, the good is oft interred with the bones, the evil lives long after. We love in reveling in the evil. We love negative stories. And I'm glad that both of you anchors are doing this, because you need to put a nail in the coffin of those who are constantly damaging the India story. It is not about Gautam Adani or the Adani Group. It is about damaging India, damaging the India story, and constantly preying on everything that is good within our country.
Absolutely, Mr. Seth, and you've made a very good point about these vicious attacks that will continue to keep coming as far as the India growth story is concerned. But let's also for a moment look at how the opposition also latched onto some of these narratives. How does that really affect the credibility of opposition narratives going forward? And does this approach of being reliant on foreign narratives harm them, help them?
Sumita, they have nothing else. What does Rahul Gandhi say to you? This is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. Has Rahul Gandhi ever said this is right? No. Donald Trump, who has now changed his entire stance, one day says India is a dead economy. Right. Who repeats it with great gusto? Rahul Gandhi. So the people in the opposition are opposing for opposition's sake. They're not opposing on ideological grounds or on grounds of ethicality or legality or the truth. It's very easy to oppose. I can just say that, Sumita, I totally disagree with you. But on the basis of what? On what? Are you just a mouthpiece? Are you an amplifier? Or are you a responsible opposition? To my mind, a responsible opposition continues to work for India. I'm not saying that they needn't question the government. Of course, they must question the government. But question the government on verifiable facts. Question the government on the truth being violated. You can't keep casting aspersions on the government. And who have they spared? They've cast aspersions on the election commission, on the judiciary, on parliamentary behavior, on SEBI. I mean, what the hell is going on? If you hate this country so much, if you don't believe this country's democracy is working for you, then get out of the opposition, resign your seat in parliament. You can't say that the election commission is corrupt and the election commission has done vote chori, फिर आपके भी vote शायद चोरी हुए होंगे. तो आप फिर क्यों parliament में बैठे हुए हो? See, there's no such thing as partial pregnancy. You can't say that, oh, actually, I'm an honorably elected parliamentarian, but the others are all thieves. This kind of nonsense has to stop. You can't be the only honorable, clean human being on this planet. And that's my limited point. I support Rahul Gandhi if Rahul Gandhi has something valid to say. But every time he opens his mouth, he hates the idea of India. Can't be a permanent situation. His mother was so
In fact, you
decent
make
and
very
dignified.
pertinent points there as far as at least the viewpoint of how we've looked at the opposition. And of course, we do know how Rahul Gandhi went hammer and tongs when this allegation did come. We'll, of course, get speaking about that particular aspect in more detail, politically speaking. But for a moment, I want to come back to the statement that's also been put out by Gautam Adani. And, one of the key aspects over here is what he stated. Essentially about what investors have endured because of this misleading report is what he's made of it. Mr. Gupta, should regulators and companies really rethink how to protect retail investors from fallout of such global reports even before facts are established?
See, you are asking for something impossible. I or any regulator cannot sit in the mind of 7 billion people. And again, the issue would be if something is coming, there would be two types of people, one who will believe, one who will not believe. Those who believe whatever comes, whatever shit or whatever kachra it is there, they will believe. So you can never change. Then again, I say that sometimes we believe some people blindly. So if I'm a follower of person A, whatever person A utters, I believe. Whatever person B utters, I believe. The limited point that I again say, it is the investor has to be educated and understand that from where the report is coming, what is the motivation. Now in Hindenburg case, Hindenburg had very clearly stated that I am a short seller. My intention is to profit by driving the stock down. That was itself an indication that please do not believe this report 100%. But we created an environment where everybody started singing in favor of Hindenburg, saying, do this, do that, close Adani, close SEBI, whatever it may be. So everybody started chorus and people were led to believe this. The other thing that I say, that investigation can never be end of anything, because I am not sure tomorrow there will not be some sort of a statement coming that probe report done by SEBI and let Supreme Court probe this report. So this could be a thing. So there is no end to it. The issue again and again is our legal system should try to nip it in the bud stage, because Supreme Court still went into this. Looking at the thing, said Supreme Court should have asked, tell us what is the legal issue. There is no legal issue there. And again, I say, in our country, there is a system that in my small organization, if somebody comes to me with a problem, my first thing is that what is the solution?
Right.
Don't bring the problem and not give me a solution. Now, we have a political system where in electronics, there is a concept of NAND gate. Whatever you feed inside one side, outside will be negative of that. So we have got a system will always be negative.
Absolutely, Mr. Gupta. And that exoneration for the group is not just coming from SEBI, but earlier from the Supreme Court as well, and which is when we saw the opposition parties, of course, attack the Adani Group, the government on that matter. But coming back to what further actions can the Hindenburg Group, group of people can really exercise further? Can they further appeal against this in an international jurisdictions? What are the options?
There are none. There are none. Adani is a listed company in India. Now, I don't know, you need to get a lawyer, and for that, perhaps you have to pay through your nose to get him or her on your television channel. But I don't think that's the argument. The argument very clearly, Sumita, is that you made a public spectacle and you did public shaming of Adani in India. You harmed investors in India. You harmed the India story. And you made it out as if India was a banana republic which reveled in crony capitalism. All of that has gone to naught. Now, who am I supposed to listen to? The goddamn SEC. Obviously, I'm going to listen to SEBI. SEBI's done its investigation. There have been two different chairpersons of SEBI. First, the lady whose name I can't remember, whatever it was. And now this gentleman. So, what will you say to that? So I think we need to now take a deep breath and understand how India is continuously being manipulated first by the international community, some sections of the international community, and then these so-called left liberals who are not happy. I have not understood where is this groundswell of bitterness coming from. It's a never-ending fountain of bitterness and manipulation. This needs to stop. And if it needs to stop through deterrent and demonstrable punishment, so be it. You can't have people just casting slurs and allegations. Forget Adani. I'm not interested in Adani. I'm talking about any Indian company. You just can't come in and chalo whatever kichad you want to chalo on someone and say ki bhai baad mein dekhi jayegi. What happens to investors' hard-earned money? What happens to people in the primary markets? What happens to bankers, investors, global partners? I mean, this kind of nonsense has to stop.
Mr. Seth, as you point that out, I want to come back to what you've said. And again, going back to the point of how Adani's statement has acknowledged investor pain, right? But the bigger question, who really shoulders that responsibility? The short seller who triggered the storm, the company that failed to reassure markets, or of course the regulator that could not calm the panic in time. But from a narrative lens, who does the world blame when the kind of value that we're looking at is wiped out? The accuser, the accused, or the system meant to protect the investors? Because can anyone really walk away blameless when investors clearly have borne the brunt here?
No, let me first tell you, everyone is blamed and is worthy of blame. But Hindenburg doesn't care. They don't give a toss about, the damage they have caused to India. SEBI has done its investigations. How can you blame them? The only person who will carry the can, my dear, is the investor. I don't know if you all are great students of literature, and I hope you were, but read George Bernard Shaw. When whales fight, shrimps are eaten. So in this fight of whales, the shrimp is the average public investor. He or she is the one who is lost out. And he or she is the one who now needs to learn a lesson that don't believe everything you hear, don't believe everything you're told, and certainly don't believe every negative narrative that is thrown your way. Because remember, we are like a nursery. There's a plant on every page at times in newspapers. You never know what the hidden agenda is, what the pernicious purpose is, and what the manipulation that is being sought to be done. So use your intelligence rather than surround sound.
Right, very valid point that you've made, Mr. Seth. And let me come to you, Mr. Gupta. Now, should SEBI use this case to sort of tighten norms around offshore finance norms? Should a similar case arise in future, given the fact that many have expressed concerns, including you yourselves, that external forces are essentially waging economic warfare against India?
I would say one case doesn't need that you have to change the society. So I would never bat for one thing that one episode should change the entire narrative or entire system. The only thing I would say that one has to understand what is the motive of the person who is putting out this report. If that person had a motive of helping investors, he would have never put out this report. His report was aimed at gaining money or gaining profit for him at the cost of the people who are reading. And we all, or all the investors succumb to that trap, and they help the person who wrote the report in meeting his objective. The issue is very simple. Even in our daily home or this thing, when you speak to your friend, when you speak to your family, whatever statements are made, we always evaluate that whether these statements are to be believed or not. That too, when we have known each other and we have confidence in each other. Here we believed a person who had told that I want to benefit at your cost, and still we believed that person. That is the problem. And we sang chorus in this. Again, I would say, whatever SEBI would do, whatever government agency would do, we will not be able to remove this trust deficit unless until the investors themselves want to understand the issue. You cannot teach a person who doesn't want to become a graduate. That's the problem.
Fair point that you make about the ecosystem as well, Mr. Gupta. But Mr. Seth, I want to come back to you as far as the growth story of India is concerned, because we know how Adani was once the face of that. Then what really happened here in terms of that alleged crony capitalism that he was accused of. But does this clean sheet allow him to reclaim that image? Or in a sense, is reputational damage harder to erase than regulatory findings?
Let me tell you, in the long term, as John Maynard Keynes said, we're all dead. In the short term, I don't see a problem. And I'll tell you why. Reputations in the corporate world are built on your business performance. Their business performance has been good. So, you might say, oh my God, what will happen? Or I have no issues around that. Adani will and continue to remain what they are. So I don't see a problem there. I only see a problem with these short-selling rascals who may not be able to pursue and continue their agenda with Indian companies and the India story any longer, because people have seen through this. You can't keep crying wolf all the time. So I'm not too worried about reputational damage and all of that. See, the markets are far smarter than all of us. I mean, other than the two of you and certainly Mr. Gupta. The markets are too smart. They discount what is malicious, what is manipulative, and what is agenda driven. So I'm not too worried about that.
Right, and that, Mr. Seth, has really been exposed. We'll have to see how the markets open tomorrow, given the fact that this exoneration has now come in not just from the Supreme Court, but from a SEBI itself. Let me come to you, Mr. Gupta. Mr. Gupta, the Hindenburg story surfaced and it came out and it was billed as exposing the largest corporate fraud. What does this really do to the credibility of short sellers? And I'm bringing this point again and again, not just in India, the credibility of short sellers, not just in India, but globally as well. And secondly, what can companies and investors learn from this case, given the fact that at least a precedent has been set on, very many short sellers across the globe trying to hit the India story?
I would again not generalize something, because every story will have a different level of credibility. Here, one short seller has been proved to be absolutely wrong because the facts or the report that he came out or that person came out were not correct. But when you say that in future all the reports will be without facts, I cannot say this. But the fact is this, again, I will say, everybody will have to evaluate any story with his own analysis. You cannot rely on the analysis of person who is motivated. That is one. Then other thing was talked about reputation of Adani. See, the issue is very clear that anything that happens leaves a doubt in the mind. Okay, it is a clean chit from the SEBI, but was there any truth, or is there any iota of truth, or maybe 5% wrong or something like this? That is the challenge that will remain with Adani, and they can only do it by saying that, okay, this is past. Future, we will ensure that we are the best firm in the country from the governance perspective. Credit rating, you may be the best, but from the governance perspective, you should say that, okay, my aim will be that we are rated as the best governed company in the country. As far as the loss is concerned, Adani has already lost, because what happened during this allegation, their plans received setback, which also came back on the rail, but the time that is lost is permanently lost. But again, every adversity brings an opportunity and a lesson.
Fair enough, Mr. Gupta. But what I want to ask Mr. Seth is, the earlier point about the political aspect of this. Mr. Seth, was Adani unfairly vilified for being politically close to the Prime Minister? And does this order vindicate him politically as much as corporately?
Tell me, if I'm an industrialist and I'm in Gujarat and Narendra Modi is my chief minister, who am I going to be close to? Mamata Banerjee or Shivraj Singh Chauhan when he was chief minister? I mean, people talk such ridiculous logic. I almost get worried. What does close mean? More than any of you on the panel, I've known the Prime Minister since 1999. Let me tell you, he won't help his own brother, his own family. Plus, Gautam Adani and his group are in multiple states, including some run by the Congress. Why is the Congress then in bed with him? If he's such an untouchable. So I think this narrative needs to be put in its perspective. Close does not mean being favored. I'm close to God. It doesn't mean, God is helping me lose weight. He isn't. So what does close mean? So I'm saying the problem here, Sumita and Nivedita, is we have lost all track of logic. We jump to conclusions. And you have very rightly articulated. I'm glad that the two of you have done this in this manner because people need a reality check. Sometimes we talk such utter rubbish, devoid of all logic. So I'm not too worried about all of these things. Let them say he's close to this, close to that, close to that. ठीक है भाई, आप भी हो जाओ close. Try and run a business as a diversified. He's running a business in India. He's not running a business in Timbuktu. So I'm not too worried about that. Okay?
Right, Mr. Seth. Fair point. Mr. Gupta, what I want to draw your attention to is one of the other aspects of the statement that was made by Gautam Adani, that those who sought to damage India's institutions owe the nation an apology. In a sense, is it healthy to equate corporate scrutiny with an attack on India's institutions, or does this blur the lines between both?
I will tell you, any amount of apology will not put you into the same position. And I don't believe in any apology or something like this for the simple reason a businessman has to run his business. Not bothering about apology or court cases, something. The energy that you will invest or money that you will invest in court cases, filing defamation to something is not worth it. Concentrate on your business. And to the last point which Mr. Seth responded, I recall a very old incident. I had a friend who was a businessman. He was a Punjabi businessman. And he was doing transactions in a state where there was a change in the government. So I told him, boss, you will be suffering because the chief minister is of a different party. He said, no, I am Rajput. So I said, you are a Punjabi, how can you be Rajput? He said, Rajput means Raja ka Put. That means whosoever is in the power, I am his son. So that is the way business is run.
In fact, fair enough points that you make from your vantage point. But on that note, I want to thank you as well as Mr. Seth for joining us, in fact, this evening and decoding as to how we're essentially looking at it. But for the moment, we leave the conversation at that.